stream. Gonna go to camera. Okay. So just
Leo,
in case...
Leo, sorry. I want to say one thing. I just
Yeah.
remembered that Yepishев set up his, like, I don't know how he did the sound in the streams with which software, but somehow he set it up. It's like that is...
perfect sound.
That's
no
quality. That's quality in Google Meet is okay for listening, not so like distorted by algorithms. I don't know how he did it, but if you are interested, you can ask him.
Thank you. I will ask him.
Yeah.
I see here, like, I mean, yeah. I guess I don't know what he did, but I'm just looking at the options I have here right now, and
it's better ask because maybe it's not loopback or something. Okay, yeah, cool. It's not a big problem because it was like that, like from the start, but just if you're interested.
Okay, great. Andrei just joined us. So Andriuha, what's going on? Just in case I'm sending you the YouTube, in case you guys want to go to YouTube. Andriuha, are you there? Andrei, are you there? Yes, no? He left. Okay, well, anyways. So Andrei, привет. Are you there? Yo. Okay, I'm assuming that you are there. Maybe you cannot activate your mic or something. So once more, my goal today was just to open a mix and discuss a mix in advance to next week. So when you come to mix something else, something new, maybe this is going to give you some ideas of some things that you have to do. We will talk a lot about trigger, like, and the creative usage of trigger. So we're going to be looking at a mix. And again, what I was telling to Dima, I don't know if you're listening, Andrei, but what I was telling to Dima is, like, I don't like to come to lectures without a presentation or something built. If you feel that this lecture was bullshit, you can really tell me later, and I will add another lecture to our program, happily. This is just, let's see how this goes and if this is useful. Because I think it's like a very actual conversation of things that are happening, and I'm trying to imagine, you know, my goal was to just kind of run you through the latest mix I did and tell you what are the things that are important to me, what makes this mix sound good in my opinion, and what am I gonna do next, you know, what are my next steps. So are you guys gonna go to YouTube or are you gonna stay here in Google Meet? I think that listening is not so critical. I will talk mostly, we will not do critical listening, we will talk mostly about what plugins I'm using and why and where and what are the processes that I'm using. And
I will stay here because it's easier to
communicate.
Okay. So Andriuha, did you heard what I said about if you think it's bullshit, you will tell me in
our
lecture? Okay,
sure.
Great. So look, the key for this mix is trigger. You know, do you guys use something similar to trigger or trigger itself? I know you know what trigger is. I'm not going to explain what trigger is, of course, but my question is, in your mixing workflow, is trigger or something like trigger a mandatory thing, or it's kind of like, meh, I don't use it so much, like?
No.
Okay.
Second one. Yeah.
So meh, I don't use it so much, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This has to become, I think, it's really in the repertoire of every major engineer, you know, because why do you think people use trigger?
It's easy.
It's easy. Why else? I mean, do you have any reason?
The recording of the drums is very complicated and hard.
But if you are like Andy Wallace, like, why would you be using trigger? Like, if you, or not Andy Wallace, but let's say, what's his name? I wanted to use an example. I just forgot. Right, Eric Valentine. If you're Eric Valentine, like, why would you use trigger? Well, I mean, obviously, you know, sometimes teachers are asking these questions and they just want one answer, and you can tell me a million answers, and I'll be like, no, why do you know? So, I mean, the reason is for layering, because, I mean, it's not because it's easy or something, it's because everything needs to be layered. And in this particular case, so I guess I'm going to go through first the things that I think are key here, and then secondly, I will go through the things that and then I will go into details. So one of the things that is key in this mix is trigger. So the goal of all this course is to move you towards pro level. So the first 11 lectures we have seen, or 10 lectures, have been all about post-production and getting everything right and fixing all the tuning, editing and stuff. And now we're going to start seeing a kind of like imaginated plugin suite that I think that you guys don't have an option not to have. It's just absolutely mandatory. Trigger is definitely one of those, and somehow you have to get your hands into Trigger, because it's just, or something similar. If you find something that does it for you, great. I remind you that you can do something like Trigger, which is like just to do like audio to MIDI, for example, of a snare, and then run like a snare sample and blend it. But Trigger is just superior. We have done lectures on Trigger, I remember, and you have seen, I remember last year, I don't know if you were there, guys, but we did a lecture especially about Trigger, about how to use it and stuff. So okay,
I was there. It was in a MMS, I remember.
You remember? Yeah, that's why I'm not gonna explain how to use it or something. So I'm gonna write here a couple of notes, like why this mix sounds like this. So the reason one is Trigger, no question about it. You will see it. The reason two, and maybe I'll put it more like the reason one is the thing I'm going to say now, and the reason two is Trigger. The reason one I'm going to say now is auto align. We have discussed it. You have seen the effects. I'm not going to go through it. Today is more to see like the relationship between all these things together. So you don't have any questions about auto align. I don't remember how much I have seen this with you. I think I have, right? And we have discussed it extensively.
So much.
Yes, because I cannot stop thinking about it. I gave it as a Christmas present to Ilya. So that's one of the reasons why this thing sounds how it sounds. The third reason why this thing sounds how it sounds is Valhalla. You all know about it?
Mm-hmm.
You all have it?
It's a Scandinavian heaven.
Scandinavian what?
Scandinavian heaven.
Yeah, exactly. It's a Scandinavian heaven. It's because of Valhalla. So the second reason why this sounds like how it sounds is Valhalla. And by the way, I want to make a note here that don't forget, I'm going to put here Valhalla 1 and Valhalla 2. What I mean by that is that in many cases, I'm doing something which is like Valhalla 1 short, Valhalla 2 long. You see, look at my snare. I have two Valhallas. Like one of them is short and the second one is long, and they're working together. So, and also don't ignore the importance of, I'm gonna put here, gated reverbs. It's really, really, really powerful tool. Like, it's not an 80s tool only. It's something that really, 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 really you shouldn't forget about. And reverbs. Wait, reverbs. Okay, so gated reverbs. I think it would be important conversation today as well. If I keep looking through this, the next point that I think is important in how this thing sounds is soothe. Everybody aware of it? We have
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna talk individual things, but I'm asking that question just in case.
Well, honestly, I have never used it.
You have never used it?
Yeah.
I'll discuss it.
Shame on you.
Shame on you. Do you have it, Dima?
It's easy to access,
It's easy, or it isn't easy?
Easy.
It is easy. So, Andrei,
Yeah, I have it.
Yeah.
Bro, I don't use Pirate.
Great. That's it. The next, that's the way to go. The next reason why this sounds how it sounds, well, in this mix, and I will show you two strategies for it, and that's going to be really important part of our conversation. The other reason why this sounds how it sounds is because of parallel compression. Do you know what parallel compression is? Like, come on, dude, are you going to fucking kidding me with that joke, with that question? I'm not asking you. I'm not asking you for reals. Like, of course, I know that you know what parallel compression is, but I'm gonna show you two ways.
Parallel, it's like two compressions at the same time.
Exactly. It's like it's like when you put one compressor and another one on the left and one on the right. It's like very parallel, right?
Oh my god.
I'm sorry.
So the other reason why it sounds like how it sounds, parallel compression, and we'll talk about how I did it in this mix, and we'll talk how I do it in other type of mix. The other reason why this sounds how it sounds, and it's a concept that we have been discussing for a while, is simplicity. Like, look at my bass processing, for example. Like, this is just a one track of bass, and there is just a mono track, and it that's all. That's not an amp or something. That's not good. I would like this thing to have been reamped or amped or something, somehow amped in some way. But I mean, this artist has been a mess. It's like we recorded something in the studio, but they had nothing prepared in pre-production, and so we have been like kind of like destroying everything we do along the way. So we had a recorded bass, and then they sent me 2 new basses they live in Vladimir. They sent me 2 new basses that they recorded, but I'm talking about simplicity, and you see like my bass processing is just like 1 EQ, 2 EQs, neutron, and that's all. That's it. I mean, I have a reverb, and that's it. That's all my bass processing. Just, well, inside neutron a lot of shit happens. Do you know what neutron is? It's like, Leo, come on, man, like, you're fired. Like, this is lecture of repeating everything. No, this is the lecture of generalizing, like kind of grabbing a lot of things that we have floating around together. So the other reason why it sounds how it sounds is because of simplicity. The other reason why it sounds how it sounds, wait a second.
It is what it is.
You say it in which sense? It is what it is.
It sounds like it is.
It sounds like it is. No, it doesn't. Like that I mean, it was quite a big work to get it there. Well, no, it was not quite a big work. I recorded this, so the sources are not criminal. So the next reason why this sounds like this is because of a plugin called Massive Passive. You know it?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a really important part of this.
I don't.
Okay, we will discuss it.
I will Google it.
After I finish this kind of like list, we will go back and see each one of those points, but we will not discuss auto-align, I promise you. And the next reason why this sounds how it sounds is because of neutron. I mean, I think that it's also an important, very important part of my strategy, and we will not discuss it because I know you guys understand that, and we have discussed it already. And the next reason why this works, tell me.
I know it. Yeah. You showed it before. Yeah.
Neutron.
Yeah, just massive passive.
Yeah. Sure.
Equalizer.
Sure. Then the next reason why this. Remember that my goal today, apart from trying to make a bit of an improvised lecture and go through this, is kind of like to put it all together, sort of like 1 week before you come and mix, just to put it all together and see. The next reason why this sounds how it sounds is because of. You remember when we were watching the lecture about Aranjerovka, that the engineer it's making arrangements all the way till the end, even in the mixing stage. So let's call them post production arrangements. So you see, like I draw some synths there, like that they were not in the song, and I was like, no man, like this thing is just dull and it needs something else. And I need to expand it, to make it grow. So let's do this, and I'm gonna call it synths here, and we will discuss that as well. The next reason why this sounds how it sounds, and basically, I mean, what I'm enumerating here for you, it's my steps. You know all the basic stuff of my steps of like making how do we make the gain staging and how do we do the equalization, all of that. You already know all those basic steps from my perspective. So now what are kind of like the steps that glue it all together? So the next thing that goes there is obviously the tuning of the elements. We discussed it before, the elements. And the next thing that comes here that I think it's important is like, I mean, I'm gonna write a commentary here. So it's like dual equalizers, equalizers. I mean, let's call it more like multiple equalizers doing different things, multiple EQs doing different things in the same channel, of course. So, and obviously last but not least is my mix bus. So my current mix bus. So, all right. So let's go back to the beginning. So let's have a listen to how the sound sounds. Tell me if the audio is too bad for this. And wait, maybe you don't even hear it.
No, I hear.
You hear it? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. By the way, they are doing a copy of Teardrop by Massive Attack. Like
Yeah, I just
yeah, and they
by
actually,
this couple of seconds.
and they actually ask me specifically to like it has to sound like Teardrop of Massive Attack, like the beginning. So let's see. The whole song starts with this like guitar build up. So let's start by looking at what this kick contains in it. You see, it contains 3 different samples blended. In this case, I mean, it changes the amount of percentage, and this is really important. It changes the amount of percentage across the song, because we have a bit of a more electronic moment to these drums, and a bit more acoustic moment of these drums. And now notice this. You see, this moment that I'm going to discuss with you is really important. I have my kick there going on, and look at my automation of trigger. You see, like I have the output mix in 100%, and then it just disappears here, like, whoop, when we go to the acoustic section of the song, we will hear it. You see, and I made a comment here, like second half starts. And then the other thing that you can notice is that to do the rim shots, this can be useful to you in the future, so remember it. To do the rim shots, you see what I did? Like I muted the snare bottom, because why do you need the snare bottom for the rim shots? And also I removed, you see, like whenever Bochka is playing, I removed it, so there is only a rim shot recorded there. And then I loaded the trigger, and I put it, the trigger in this case is in 57%, and I found, what sample am I using? I'm using actually a snare top sample, really weird. Wait, let me hear this sample. I just remember if I click this, let me just solo it, 1 second. That's our clear rim shot. Let me just put this in 100% for a moment. Wait, I need to do it here. I just want to hear that sample. Wait. Yeah, it's just like, can you hear it?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a lower harmonic to my original sample. Like now you hear it like original. You see? Can you hear them working together? Can you imagine that blend? Look, and then if I show it to you alone, and if I remove it completely, you see?
Yeah.
So we made it more pleasant to the ear, more full, like. And the kick, man, in the case of the kick, it's extreme what is happening on the kick. Like, look at the kick. It became the kick of an 808, but I saved myself 300 million hours because I have now what the drummer is performing, and I don't need to make a map of what the drummer is performing or nothing. It's all perfect there. And what I have here is 808. Wait, if I touch it, we hear it. Look. It's really long. Look at the release time. Look at the release time. Boom. Boom. And I wanted that. And then it has this super sub bass. I guess that you don't hear it maybe.
Yeah, it's hearable.
Yeah, and then I have this one. Like a more, and you see, when you are doing trigger, obviously you are trying to be very, it's a very abstract endeavor. It's like you're trying to create how this thing sounds. It's a process of sound design. Karoche, I'm not gonna be discussing that in such length. So, okay, so what do I end up with? I end up with something like this. I end up with exactly the sound of Teardrop, and I really did it. You know what's interesting? Like when I want to show you this. When I started the first version I did, they told me it has to sound like Teardrop, and I remembered that Teardrop was way much more wet. This is the first version I did. You see? It's like it has this huge reverb, and then I went and I heard the song, and I was like, oh shit! Like no, it's not sounding like that. So okay, so great. So that's kind of what I want to talk about trigger, just like how useful it was to build this, and how important it was to do what I did here. Like, do you understand why I removed this thing here? I mean, I had to make it so loud so it triggers the trigger always. And so I get a really crispy, clear rim shot. And of course I had to delete whatever is in here because I boosted so much that the trigger was getting triggered by the kick. So it was just annoying, and I just had to do it like that. So I had my rim shot, you see, and I still have some tasks to do. You see this thing? You see there like a little belly there? That's a mistake. Like, this should be closed there because it's a potential moment when the trigger can get triggered. So, okay. What else is happening here? Like, every channel has a SSL channel doing some processing. All that processing, guys, you know it, was done on the recording process. So this is my recording, like a result of my recording process. This was done on the day of the tracking. Literally, I just like dial it, you know, find the sound that I like, and that remains all the way till the mixing. Why do this thing sounds how it sounds as well? Because I'm gonna jump to another point that was a little bit down the road. We're not gonna talk about auto line. We talked about trigger, what I needed to talk to you about trigger, and I will show you something else. I'll come back to it. But there was another conversation which was parallel compression. And I told you that I was gonna show you two different approaches to it. How do you do parallel compression? When you guys do
on the send bus.
Huh?
Sometimes on the send bus, sometimes on the track.
Yeah, I'm doing it like, I mean, for me it depends. Like, if the band is heavy, if the sound of the band is heavy, I really do it like separately in another set of tracks that I can blend. I don't know why, it's kind of like I have it in my head that it's more comfortable for me. But in this case, you see the parallel compression I'm doing, for example, to the kick, it's here. It's just like a bit of compression, like not so much, because I don't think it was so necessary, in my opinion. I didn't felt it because I had the samples, you see, and the samples are very even. So I had some parallel compression happening on the bus with a plugin that gives me a mix, dry and comp. How do you do parallel compression, Dima? Is a parallel compression an important part of your workflow?
Not really important because for me parallel compression it's kind of mandatory tool for vocals, and you know my my relations with vocals.
So. Yeah, it's very minor.
And with another like the instrumental part.
Mm-hmm.
At this level I do it by ear. I don't have like some special algorithm to do this.
No. Okay, I have like, I mean, we have an option one which is like on the same bus, basically on the same track or bus, and track or bus, and we have with separate tracks on separate tracks. Like, when I do it, I feel that this is when I do this, I will show you what I mean by this on separate tracks, and I feel that it's more like heavy duty work kind of, and when I do it here, I feel it's more like light duty.
You mean the option to, like, you creating the copy of the...
No, I'm gonna show
Просто
you
на
right
треке, как я понял.
Yeah, just like in a separate individual track. I'm gonna show you what I mean. Like, I'm gonna open another project. I hope.
And you live in like both of them.
No, I mean like creating a boss and then making a parallel boss. In the case of Ableton, it would be like using send and returns.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, using send and returns, something like that. And
I always use parallel compression on drums because it's really glued.
Yeah, me too. And I want to invite you, Dima, to consider that. Like, it's kind of like, you see, in this particular case, I have, and what I'm going to tell you now, guys, is really, really, really important to consider. And it because this whole parallel compression thing is like, you experiment a lot of things across the years, and then something sticks, you know, and stays for you. Like, notice something. Oh, by the way, this is really interesting how I'm doing it. I'm doing it in this particular mix. I'm doing it very different on how I usually do it. Like, in this case, I have, imagine, the kick is being parallel compressed with the distressor. And then this is going to my drums boss, which is also being compressed. And it's being compressed fully. So, I mean, I'm compressing the parallel compression. Like,
Sorry. Returning to your question, I always do it on the same track because for me there is no reason to creating another track because the parallel compression itself, it's a mixing of compressed and original signal.
Yes.
And what's point to like sending parallel compression somewhere?
You have more control, you know.
It gives you more control, yeah, because you can fine tune automation easier. Well, not necessarily like that, but also because some compressors just don't have a mix knob. Like that's one of the
for this situations, yeah, for sure.
That's one of the main reasons. I'm going to risk it and open a project that shows you the other way I do it. Because this is kind of like, I mean, you see, that's why I end up doing so little compression here, because there is further compression down the line. But let me just open this, and I'm gonna risk it because it may fuck the audio a bit. I don't know. Let's see. I guess that if I open a project that is in 88, it will not fuck it up. I think to pick I made it like that. Yeah. And it's in 88. Let me just open it. Let's risk it. Don't save. I don't want to have problems. Audio is good?
Yeah, looks like.
Alright, great. Look, you see, like the other way I do it is like, you see, kick. I don't even need to switch on this mix. Like, kick goes to kick parallel. It's a boss.
Mm-hmm.
And then, this is really important what I'm going to tell you now, guys. And I really want you to think about this. The concept here is like, in one option, the parallel compressed drums goes to a second compressor that is gluing all the drums together. In another option, that is not happening. You see what I mean? Do you understand what I said?
Not really.
Okay, great.
Remember, not happening what?
I said it wrong, I guess. Remember, in the previous one, there was a distressor here,
mm-hmm.
and that thing was going to the drums boss, who had another distressor.
Mm.
So in option A, we had parallel compression going to a second compressor that is the glue compressor of the whole drums. In this case, I have it like this. The kick drum is not getting compressed here at all. Maybe a little bit in the CLA drums, by the way, but it's very minor. It's nothing major. It's really, really simple. And then it goes to the drums boss where a second compressor is working. But there is a parallel compression that is going independently to the mix boss. You see?
Mm-hmm.
It goes to the router. It doesn't go to the drums boss. That is really important detail. I hope that you catch that.
Yeah.
You got my point there, right? Andrucha, you two got my point, right?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
In option 1, you see, look, the kick boss is going to drums boss. You see it, right? Here.
Yeah.
Okay, the kick boss is going to drums boss. The kick boss is not experiencing compression. So when it arrives to the drums boss, there is a second compressor there, and maybe I'm gonna switch this on because I think that compressor was off. It's very likely. I know it was on. I see it was on. This distressor. And you see, no, it was like barely there, active, almost not doing anything. Because I don't like to do compression of the cymbals nowadays at all. And this is something I learned from Joe Barrisi. Like, I'm absolutely not compressing the cymbals when it's heavy stuff, because it's just not necessary, to be honest. Now, in this case, I am sending the kick uncompressed to the drums boss, who is not getting compressed at all. So I have like a uncompressed path, and then I send all my compressed stuff straight to the router without going to the drums boss processing. Did you got it, Andrucha?
Yeah, makes sense now.
Makes sense now? Okay. So you see, like now, because I'm gonna send you these notes when I finish, you see I have, one of the thoughts I have is like parallel compression on the same track boss, light duty, or on separate tracks going straight to the router. Let me just put it like this, going straight to the router, heavy duty. And this one is like on the same track boss, and this was more like going to the drum boss, light duty. Now it's clear, and separate tracks going straight to the router. Okay, I'm getting that it's clear. Okay, so let me just go back to where we were. Now, there is another reason why, and I'm gonna write you a new comment there. There is another reason why this sounds how it sounds, and the other reason is, and I'm gonna put it up here. I think that parallel compression. Let's continue it. Put it like in the second, third position. By the way, let me just save as this, like, because this is dangerous, as MMS lecture, so I don't fuck it up. Okay. So I'm back here. I have parallel compression, Valhalla short, well, whatever, 5, 6, etc. 6. Okay. So you see here, well, I guess that you're seeing like my kick is going to the drums boss, and there is not a parallel compression, but tracks afterwards is all like that, already sorted out. Yeah, I remember what I wanted to write you here. Note, I'm kind of not compressing the cymbals and the guitars at all in most of my productions. There is another thing that I need to mention here that is going to be important on why this sounds how it sounds, apart from massive passive, and I'm going to add here another plugin, which is Waves, and I really encourage you to get it. Actually, it seems like I'm not using it in this mix, which is very atypical, because nowadays I use it almost everywhere. It seems like I did it in the first version, and then Waves, Kramer, EQ, like, this is one of the others.
The question, you're not compressing the guitars even if it's clean? Like, no, kinda clean sound?
Yeah.
Because I understand how you can not to compress overdriven guitars, because it's kinda compressed already after the all, processing of overdrive.
Yeah.
But the clean guitars is very dynamic and not too...
I think I prefer to do it with automation, because I can hear like a volume automation, like, because I can hear so clearly the parallel compression on guitars. It's just, sorry, the compression on clean guitars. It's just really, for me, I hear this like kind of like round edges, It's like a bit of an air thing, like, and
yeah, I understand.
I just don't like it personally, so I avoid it. Sometimes I have to do it by necessity. I remember what I wanted to write you here. The other reason why this sounds how it sounds is because I built two totally different drum sounds in the same song, with that can be transitioned really easy. So what do I mean by that? When I told you at the beginning that and that's how we use trigger. I mean, that's what trigger is super useful. It's like, wouldn't you like to be able to change the drums of your drum sound in one click and it not suffer about it at all? Well, that's what trigger does for you. Like, remember when I showed you that I had this like 100% automation in the kick and in the snare? You see, I had like the trigger had 57% of automation. Look, pop, it goes to 0 in a point, and same for the kick. Pop, it goes to not 0, but in the case of the kick, I left a little bit of the samples there. And so look at how the transition sounds like. Just the sun night. Make you mine. When the day passed with no regret. Now I have an acoustic drum sound. Brighter than any shadow, you will see my silhouette. So, I mean, you want to sound pro, and you need to be able to switch drum sounds so fast, without effort. And that's kind of the point of what we're discussing today. And so that's really an important thing, that you need to be able to create two different drum sounds in the same song that can transition really easily. So, yeah. Now, there is this Valhalla reverbs that I'm telling you right now. it's like really important thing. I hope that you can hear it. Wait, you can hear the snare, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm asking just because of the transmission, like how good it is. Look, my philosophy here to the snare processing is like I'm using trigger for it. Actually, no, because right now it's in 0% mixed. This SSL channel here is just, yeah, well, it's doing a little bit of processing. Actually, not a little bit, quite a bit. It's like the summatory of both channels in one. I have my parallel compression of the distressor, very little. And then I have two Walhallas. Like one Walhalla is the long one, and I guess that right now it's in 0. I was using it more in the intro, you see. Like, just, that's obvious. That's like a production technique. Nothing fancy about that. And in here, also the second Walhalla is on. And what is the second Walhalla doing? Let me just put it like, this is, guys, is going to be super important. Like, I'm going to put it to 100% now. You see, like, it's an ambience. It's just an ambience. Because if I remove it, you see, like, if I add a bit of it, the snare becomes way larger and way much more interesting. And when you put it in combination, when you put that in combination with a second reverb, like you get like the augmented reverb with the new body of the short reverb plus the second reverb, which is a really large one. In a really
Do you have any reverb automation in
yeah, of course
this
I do.
exact moment?
Look, yeah, look, like book, it goes to 0. Like the long reverb goes to 0. Like for me right now, I don't know if you remember, but in a point I did a mix that I became super excited about when you guys were in Foundation. That it was a band called Resina, and I was like, oh fuck, like I love this mix. And from when I did that mix, I opened some Joe Barrisi drum mix tutorials, and I was watching how he mixes drums, and I was like, oh man, like I noticed that he was using always gated reverbs. Like Tool, it's full of gated reverbs, and they are like Phil Collins reverbs, really. Like if you hear with attention, would you have expected that in your head, or because I was surprised, but were you? Maybe you were not. Like I'm not surprised, but for me it was surprising. You understand what I'm talking about?
Not really. I just don't remember this group.
Tool or Phil Collins?
Second one.
Phil Collins.
Yeah.
Look, like you of course know it very much because it's like one of those things that is so famous that it's like that. Yeah, no, I mean that maybe you heard in an advert or in a movie. Like I'm sure that you know this, 90% sure that you know this. Like it's like it's almost a meme song, like kind of. Wait.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
You heard just 1 second, you know, but you hear all the gated reverbs that are there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Tool uses a lot of gated reverbs, and also ISIS. Man, there is a band called ISIS that is really heavy, and it uses a lot of gated reverbs. And when I was mixing Resina, I was like, all right, I'm gonna try this dual reverb thing, and now it's a Fishka. It never leaves me. I always have 2 reverbs in the snare, like loaded by default, like just from the beginning. So
you know, for your safety, should say that ISIS is restricted in the Russian Federation.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, if you go to Facebook, and you search for the band, their name is like ISIS parentheses the band. I mean, many people were getting confused about this. So let me show you something. I want to show you something that what can gated reverbs do for you in a production like this. I'm not gonna be using gated reverbs here, but I'm gonna change this guy to be a gated reverb. And you see, like I have it here. I have right there an option of gated reverbs, and I'm gonna try, for example, like big ambience gate. It's just like really obvious. Wait. So let me put it a lot more. You see? How fast it disappears. Like it's just, well, that's the Fishka of the gated reverb. And of course, when you do gated reverbs, you need to tune them to the distance of the snare. So yeah, this is actually well tuned to the BPM. That's what I mean. And if I switch it off, look, it's crazy. You know, I think that the reason why gated reverbs are so effective is because, in general, you know, in music, everything is about the relationship between two things, and the reverb is just like being cut so harshly before the snare starts that it creates a kind of like a shock for the listener. It's like, fuck, there was so much information here, and now there is a snare, and it accentuates the snare. Accentuates the not only the snare, sorry, I said it wrong. It accentuates the hit that will come after, like the kick or whatever, because you were like, what the hell happened? Kick. What the hell happened? Kick. What the hell? Let's try to see it like this. And it sounds so artificial when you hear it in isolation, but nobody's fair and true enough to okay, I mean, one of the reasons why this mix sounds how it sounds.
Sorry, do you remember or know where gated drums were invented in the world? I mean, England or America?
In the UK.
In the UK, because I know that gated drums is kind of California stuff, and
yeah, actually, let's
a lot of California groups bands.
There is coincidentally a little micro documentary about gated reverbs, like
every single time
that I once found, and I'll just drop it to you. Like, I think you're right that it's America, bro. Like, and I said wrong when I said the UK. I think you're right. I don't remember that.
Maybe because Phil Collins is English singer, and why I asked, because I just know for some reasons that it's fishka of Californian music, and it was just question to.
I guess it's
history question.
Gonna end up being a New York thing, like, if I'm not mistaken. Like, you see, like, I mean, this documentary starts talking about Pink Floyd, so I don't know, I don't remember. Maybe it was in the UK. I don't remember this documentary, but you can watch it and it tells you all the story. Like,
yeah, okay, thank you.
Like, coincidentally, just like really random, but yeah, there is this like a super long conversation about gated reverbs. And it's done by Vox. It's really weird that it's. I don't know if you know who Vox is, but not the amplifier maker. It's like a super left-leaning journal. Like,
yeah, I know.
Yeah, you know. Okay, great. So, anyways, well, Hala One in short is one of the reasons why this sounds how it sounds. Another reason why it sounds how it sounds is soothe. Okay, and by the way, let me go here and write you another idea of why this sounds how it sounds. And it would be hi-hat wars. Hi-hat wars. So there was a whole war fought with the hi-hat here. I think that it's a matter of that this drummer didn't have good dynamics, really. He's not bad. He's not a bad drummer, but he's not great too. And like when he starts opening the snare, you will see like the snare starts standing out too much. Like, look. Close hi-hat. Like, I think I said the wrong word. I'm talking about open hi-hat, okay? Sorry if I said something wrong. I'm talking about open hi-hat. So we start with close hi-hat. This room automation is because of the hi-hat, actually. Like, all of this thing that I had to do here is like I was trying to avoid the hi-hat, and the second thing that I was doing is using soothe, and that's why I'm talking about soothe now. So let me go back here 1 second and see my list. The hi-hat wars. So to solve the hi-hat wars, the open hi-hat wars, I used plain old automation, and soothe, which is, I mean, it kind of connected to this point. Hi-hat wars, let me just put it like kind of here, hi-hat wars / soothe. So yeah, Sooth, I know that you know it already. I mean, I guess that you know it already. Sooth it uses the principle of MP3s to kind of like extract information from the the track, and so it kind of like uses a lossy algorithm just to get stuff out of it. And so what's happening is that I'm trying to focus. You see, there is a preset called hi-hat remover. You know, it's just like very much specifically done for this. And so let me show you the delta. So this is what he's attacking. Look at that. You see, like, I could be even more heavy-handed if I switch it off. But I'm missing a lot, actually. Like, I mean, I think I could.
Do you use the SUS as sidechain?
Not yet, to be honest. Like,
no.
not yet. I should.
Because it's a really great tool to open space for vocals in mix, for example, or any other instruments.
Because you can send this signal to a vocal, for example, or a guitar.
You sending vocal into, for example, guitar or mix, and so the SUS based on the preset what you use removes like some frequencies.
It's also frequency dependent. It's not only amplitude.
Yeah. You can edit this in this equalizer. What you see.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, it's really cool. So
it's kind of, when you use it in sidechain, it removes only necessary, even with a flat EQ, but you can control it with this inbuilt EQ editor if you wanna remove something you know, more.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's really cool. So I was going to I just had, while we were talking about this, I had another thought that came to my mind, which is my current gain goals. You know, that's really important, and I will talk about it towards the end. So we will discuss. Let's put here like a pro tip. I'm adding the commentary pro tip. Sooth can be used inside chain mode.
I think it's more newbie tip, because SUS it's automation of some you know, mixing elements, like trying to put vocals into mix and all the stuff. Just SUS do it automatically, but I think like the professional engineer can do it just by the like, you know,
by the
very simple equalization or some other tools.
I agree with you.
But anyway,
it's useful.
It works. It's useful because it works like real time, and it can adapt for really hard changes of the one or another track.
I agree with you. That's really cool. So it's cool. It's a cool tool, and it's kind of more like an emergency thing. Like for me, like Sooth, I use it more. I don't use it all the time. It's kind of like some emergency resource that I have there. You see, like I kind of like switch it off for the overheads. Like I had it, and then I switch it off. It was too heavy-handed and stuff like that. So all right. I'm gonna actually, I like the order that we were covering it to talk about different sources, how it works. Okay, now it's the moment to talk about simplicity. I don't know, like I think this is quite minimalistic processing in general. Like, I mean, what is happening? Imagine to my overheads: auto line, 1 EQ, 2 EQs, 3 EQs. Actually, well, these EQs are not doing anything. This is just level here, and there is like a whole low pass filter. Sorry, high pass filter. There is just, in overheads, there is just 1 EQ, and the EQ is doing very little. Like just like a low pass. High pass. That's interesting. I'm just using this this guy just to do a low pass. I guess that I inherited this from the recording and I left it there. Like I could just have done this both here, you know. And then I have a Pro EQP1, you know, which right now you see it's not doing anything. It's just running through the process, which is something I do a lot.
Coloring,
just coloring it, and there's no even doing anything. Like, and that's done on purpose. Like, and that's all. That's my overhead processing. Like in the past, my overhead processing used to look like this super complicated EQ with a lot of changes and like cuts and stuff. And nowadays, when my EQs start getting complicated, I just switch them off and start again. So, and look, like well, hi-hat right and mono near. Mono near has quite a heavy-handed compression, you know, and I usually do that with the channel strip of SSL. I just like how it sounds. This is how it was. It just becomes an effect kind of thing. Let me just turn it off. And I guess I could cut a bit higher from it. Okay, so that's cool. And about minimalism, I mean, what else can I tell you? Like, look at guitars. It's like Autoline, EQ, and then Valhalla and Neutron. Neutron is dangerous because a lot of shit happens in the Neutron, and that's just cheating. It's like, look at how simple is my processing. I just have one plugin, and then inside that plugin you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plugins. And you see, like in this case, I'm compressing guitars. This is something that is just happening along the way. And if this is like day 1 of the mixing, like in day 2, I review always the soothes, the neutrons, and most likely these compressors ends up either off or they end up like this, really, like just like a little color there, and that's all. Because I'm not into compressing guitars, like I told you, but right now it's all this. See how heavy it is? Yeah, it's quite heavy. It's happening right now, by the way, so I stand corrected, but it's a mistake. Like, it's something that happened because I'm in the process of mixing this, not because I would leave it like that. Like in day 2, and that's one of the things I wanted to discuss today as well. Like day 2, you know, I would open this and just go through all the neutrons individually and be careful. Because what I do with neutron usually is like I start with the algorithm, you know this, I have shown it to you, and then I redo what the algorithm did kind of thing. So, but I mean, compared to my previous guitar processing, this is really minimalistic. I don't know if it still passes as minimalistic, consider that the neutron is doing a lot of shit, but and then I have a couple of EQs here. These are effects. There is a second neutron here that is not doing anything. It's just for it's so I can connect it to the virtual mixer here. I just like to do that, but it's just literally not doing anything. It's just so it connects with the whole thing.
But I think how it's called,
relay.
There is relay, yeah, plugin.
Actually, I'm looking again. Like, this is day 2. You see, like, this guy can be switched off. It's not doing absolutely anything, and
eating resources. Yeah,
it's just eating resources. So I do have a relay there. So that's just like sloppy. And also the same with this Pro Q3. Like, I mean, these things were loaded there, and there is a second, like a reverb for it, like a Panman and some effects. But I think that this is quite a minimalistic mix. Like, there is not so much happening. Let's look at the Lucidvox. It's just like Waves Tune, need 1073, and Nectar. Nectar happens, a lot of shit happens inside Nectar, so it's again tricky to say that. But what's happening is like EQ, the Esser, there's a second EQ, and look at how low, like not heavy-handed that processing is. It's like this is 2 dBs kind of cuts. Oh shit! And this is like less than 2 dBs as well combined. Like, so it's very little. It's very way. It's really typical to do EQ, de-esser, EQ again after. It's very typical thing. Just if that helps you, you know, to think about it, like it's normal. You usually want to kind of like remove and recover. We have discussed this in the past together. Like, remove some stuff and recover some stuff after. You know, I think that's worth thinking about, and it can help
you. Usually use de-esser before compression.
Yes.
Because
yes. Very much, because then the compressor is gonna grab the de-essed signal and compress that, and so the S's in the compressor are gonna be less harsh. Yeah, for sure.
I saw that usually some of the I saw a lot of examples when people use DSR after compression, because compressor after your DSR compressor adds SS more, and I think it's kind of personal thing, because you can do it anyway.
Yeah, I also think so. Bratan. So, but I go for it like that. It's kind of my usual thing. It's like you try and find your own way, but my usual thing is like that. So the other thing that I think is important is like that why this sounds how it sounds, simplicity, and I would call it boss admin. So just let me put it like this, boss admin. So what do I mean by that? There is not such heavy processing and many tracks going to the same bosses. So you see, like guitar A1 and B1 are going to guitar A, and then that's all, and then a third guitar, it's going to its own boss. I'm not sending like guitar A, B, and C to the same boss. It's just because I don't want this process. I mean, I want to have control over this process over this process, so because there are different kind of groups of guitars. Some people just grab all the guitars and go to one guitar group, it doesn't matter how different they are, and I don't like to do that. I like to administer them separately so they can go to the guitars. This is cover, and then the massive passive and the Kramer EQ. I mean, the reason why I'm just mentioning this for a second is because for me, massive passive is really important thing. There is like a mastering version of it, and right now I started with a preset called Hip Hop Mix, and because it's really like a mastering or mix boss plugin, and then I tweaked it to my liking. But it's just like this EQ is so smooth and so, I don't know, like pleasant to the ear when you start using it, that it became a tool that it's kind of like not optional for me. And you see, like in my bass sound, it's also really important. So I'm running the massive passive. And so what is my concept in general nowadays of equalization? It's like, well, I mean, it's not nowadays, it's the same that it has been forever. Chirurgical stuff, coloring, and funny stuff, and having fun. So kind of you will see that in a lot of the channels I have a very careful EQ, and then I have some sort of like colored EQ. That has been like this forever, since you know me. That has not changed in the last years. And the Kramer EQ, have we discussed it? I think we have. Have we or not? Here.
Can you show the equalizer?
Yes.
Because maybe.
Yeah, I just don't remember if we have discussed it, but nowadays it's one of the most important parts of my mixing. That's why it's here in this mix. No, it's not. But it really has become a really important part of my mixing strategy. And where is the Kramer? If you see it, just let me know. I'm just a bit crazy right now. Not Kramer, here is Kramer HLS. Yeah, this guy. Like this guy has become, and it's again the case of not even engaging it. Have we discussed it or not? I don't remember.
I don't remember too.
I don't think that we have discussed it. Like it's not even engaging it. Like this guy, it's so colored. It's like brutally colored that when you put it in 60 hertz, he will have a resonance frequency, obviously around 60 hertz, but that it resonates in all the octaves of 60 hertz. And many times I just use this plugin like this, just like I put it in 120 hertz. That's part of the minimalism that I was telling you, and that's all I do. It's just running through it. It really, and that's a trick that I took from Andrew Schweppes, by the way. It's not my trick, and it usually is. Dima, going back to the conversation of distortion with the guitar, compression of the guitars. It usually is how I do compression of the guitars, like because it's through analog saturation that I do it. Kind of like I just like it more how that sounds. I don't think that you're gonna be able to hear it clearly, absolutely now. Let me see if by any chance you can see. I can hear that guitar compression. They're so brutal, like it bothers me in the first notes. Some people really like that. Some people like that sound and they want it, but I don't like it. Let's see. Let's see if you can hear this.
I think we can't on Google Meet.
Yeah, I'm seeing if I can hear it clearly. Let me just move to Yeah, in 400 is really clear. Yeah, just like its presence just really adds like a layer that is really interesting. So I guess that obviously the point 0 here is why does it sound like this? It's layering, obviously, and that's everybody knows about this, and it's nothing news for you. So massive passive and waves Kramer EQ are really important parts of my workflow. Sometimes I put the Kramer in the mix bus if the mix is heavy-handed. Neutron, I'm not gonna even mention it. You guys discuss this so much. We have discussed it so much. So post-production arrangements, obviously. I mean, imagine this song without these synths, and it was like that. And I just sat down, and the first thing I did actually when I sat down was like, this thing needs synths. And these guys. Very simple. And there is another layer. Look, if I switch this guy off. If you switch them off, it's like, what the hell just happened? But you kind of don't notice that they're there. Maybe the higher synth, you do notice it, but... I need some time to make things right. So, I mean, you have to be always ready to enhance your mix with some production ideas that come to your head. That it's just like, and usually, you know, I'm becoming really obsessed with this, and I describe it a lot to my friends and to people that I'm studying with and working with. It's usually really important to think about the ranges that you're operating at. It's like, what do I have here? I have a very high guitar, and I have kind of like bottom end drums, very bottom endy drums. And so what am I going to do with the mid range? So that needs to be a thinking, you know. It's like, what am I going to do with the mid range? What am I going to do with the mid range? What is going to happen here? Like, so this is really important, and that's why I created those scenes, because the mid range was empty. So
I just want to say that it sounds absolutely greatly with synths and absolutely uninteresting without.
Yes, and you see, like, that was a mixing decision. It was like, this thing is in
by the way, question: is this some standalone Jupyter plugin or?
Well, I mean, yeah, sure. It's the Arturia, like.
It's Arturia. Okay, the same. Yeah.
It's Arturia.
I should use it. It sounds cool.
Yeah, and I'm also using the CMI, the Fairlight, which is my favorite synth nowadays. By the way, soon I will redo the foundation lectures of synths that we saw together. But of course, like every year I give lectures a bit better. So when I finish that, I'll share with you the playlist in case it's useful to you. Like, so we will discuss a lot synths. Soon there will be like 5 lectures about synths or something in foundation, so I don't know if it's useful to you. So okay, the next point that I have here is like the tuning of the elements. Not gonna talk so much about it, but it's key. I mean, I did not hesitate and go and tune the vocals really quickly, just tuned everything. We discussed it in a separate lecture. There's nothing, and we already discussed this thing, like multiple EQs doing different things in the channel, and this is going to be really important for today. My new current gain goals. So I want to be as close as 0 as possible. That's the game I'm playing nowadays, you know. In the past, I was kind of trying to leave some headroom for the mastering engineer and shit like that. And I told you that when I read the Bobcat's book, and I noticed that in the I remember telling you this in the past, I just don't remember if you remember this. When I was reading the Bobcat's book, and I noticed that he says, like, sometimes we get paid $10,000 just to say that this is ready. And I was like, like, what is the meaning of that? It means that the mixing engineers are sending really hot mixes to the mastering engineers. So that makes me think that led me to think that it's good to be aiming for the 0. And so my way of doing gain staging, of course, I'm not going to discuss it with you because we have talked about this for a million times. But nowadays I have a bit of a more ambitious goals than in the past about how hot I want things to be. And I want things to be quite hot. We have here in our list, for some reason it's not written here, my current gain goals, and I'm gonna put it together with my mix bus, my current mix bus. In the end of the lecture, guys, I'm gonna give you, like in a couple of minutes, I'm gonna give you like a big summary of how, if I were you and I'm going to start a mix, and that's maybe gonna be the most important part of the lecture, what things I would consider very, very, very important that I shouldn't forget. So we will discuss that in a second. And now we're in the mix bus moment. So okay, right now my mix bus is the Manley massive passive, the Pro MB, like taking a bit care of the mid range. Nothing changes from the past there. The SSL glue, nothing new there, nothing special. Now this is something that is really new in my work, I don't know, scheme, and it's the mid range pull tech. Like I use it a lot now, and it has, like you see, like a peak around 200, a cut around 700, and a peak around 2000. It depends on the song, on the arrangement, on the notes, but it's my mix bus how it looks now. And then a tape machine. You know, I oscillate between the Apex and the Struther or the J77. I don't use the J77 so much in the mix bus because it's a bit too groove. It's a bit too groove. You know what I mean, right? The J77.
Yeah.
It's a bit too groove, but I oscillate between those three. Like usually I end up using for things that are low end heavy, I tend up using the Struther, and for things that are more like mid rangey, high rangey, I use the Ampex. Like just how it works. And of course my beloved pull tech, and then imager. That's why I have those on here. This maximizer, you see, like look at what it's doing. It's like -2 ceiling and -2 threshold. I mean, it's like not active at all. It's just like in case something escapes and I need a bit of limiting for saving my ass, it's there, but it's almost not doing anything. Actually, if I play the song and that's not a game, like at all. So okay, and the imager, I mean, I'm just making things wider, you know, there.
I noticed that this maximizer in Ozone sometimes not really safe, even with you do ceiling like -0.2. It sometimes.
Do you have any true peak? Like.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even with that, some leakages appears.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Maybe it would be better. I agree with you in that. And I mean, for me, my favorite limiter is Oxford. Like, I mean, I just love it so much. But I mean, I'm just saving myself some processing and some time just by having it here because it's just an emergency. But yeah,
I do too. But yeah, it's not like 100% safe. Just to say.
I hear you there. Okay, so if I were to start a mix again, like you are gonna do, I mean, I don't know if you're gonna arrive to the studio next week starting from 0 or if you're gonna already have something. Depends on you. It doesn't matter. It's like what it's really important.
Even sorry, one more little thing. I really started noticing that in a lot of like very expensive production songs, it sometimes there is some peaks and all the stuff.
Yes.
I started noticing it because of my like headphones, and I like.
Yeah,
when I bought expensive headphones, I really can now hear any peaks and all this over.
Yeah. And
how it's called? I forgot. And it's not even the problem with, I think, the really very small peaks in.
Agreed.
With Ozone. Yeah.
Agreed. I agree with you 100%. So if I were starting a mix again, and what are the things that I'm really carrying nowadays in comparison to the past? I think that my main rule nowadays is simplicity. Like it has to be simple. Like if it's not simple, I start all over again. And if I were you and I would starting something, and also the second rule, and we saw it in the lectures that we have discussed till now, the second rule that I have there on the table is like, if I can get away with getting something to sound right without anything there, even like just to make it louder, I try to do that. You know, simplicity, I think, is nowadays my main rule. The second thing that I care a lot is layering. Like, so if I were you and I'm gonna start a mix, I would care about layering. But I think that even before simplicity and layering, and this is what I think you guys need to work more. In my, I haven't seen your mixes or heard your mixes for a while, but I have an intuition that what I'm gonna tell you is true, and you tell me if I'm wrong or not. The main thing that you guys need to really get together is your kind of like overall project management, that the whole thing looks and feels so pro and so compact, and that there is no like tracks that are unnamed and things that are distractive. You know, everything has to be fast and tochna and nadioshna, and it cannot be just like some tracks that are put together. So bossing, naming, labeling, administration is really important. And the next thing that I think is really important to me is I encourage you to do it. It's like doing signal flow. I'm going to insist on this. Doing gain staging with the relay or some kind of plugin, and not necessarily with the automation. Like, that thing really changed my work. And using multiple equalizers in one channel, of course. Like, it's something that is really important. I mean, just different flavors. So if I were you and I'm going to start, what I would do is this. I would grab my tracks, make them very clean. I would do this before I arrive at the studio, label everything, color everything, make sure that it's obsessive, compulsive, amazing session, that it's not bullshit in any angle or in any way. And then I would be very strategic about my gain staging, like we have discussed in the past many times. And I guess that I will start EQing right from the beginning. I will not wait for gain staging, later EQing, just EQing right from the beginning. Actually, do all the processing on the go, you know, like, don't be like, I will do the parallel compression when I finish this. Like, I think that that's one of the main advices I want to give. It's like, I will put a Saturn on the snare, but after I start doing the bass. No, it's like, do everything that comes to your mind in the moment, because you want to mix things how they're going to sound in the end right away. You don't want to have like stage A preparing this, so then I can go to stage B, and then when you're at stage B, you're going to have to undo many of the things you did because things now sound differently. And the same is with the mix bus. Like, I'm nowadays, if I were you and I would be starting something, the amount of time I'm going to spend with the mix bus off is like 5 minutes or something, or whatever, 1 hour maybe. And then the mix bus is on forever. You know, because I don't see the point in mixing without the mix bus. Yeah, and I mean, and also when you're mixing these tracks, you know, that you're gonna mix next week or whatever, any augmented things that you can do to the arrangement is going to also support your task, you know. So yeah, these are the things that are.
You know what I noticed recently about mixing, in case of volume and gain staging, that you can use small tweaks of panorama to really
to make sure that you achieve volume without making something louder.
Sure. And this is the way I really like now. Because it's kind of tricky, because you creating like some, you not only edit the volume and gain staging of the tracks, but adding the additional element as panorama, because you can't pan without panning, you know, but it works. I just like it. It works
bro, you're super right, and it's something that I regret not having mentioned, because I never talked about panning kind of here in this conversation, and it's really important. So I will put here, after hi-hat wars, simplicity and boss admin, I will put here like in point 10, it would be like panning as a way to achieve volume.
Like, panning and imaging too, because you can just wide and narrow two tracks and create beautiful, like, not a gain stage, but mix just by doing the imaging.
Yes.
Without touching even the
volume knob. Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, another thing I forgot to mention is the image, or let me call it more like how do I usually call it? It's like a stereo pyramid. Pyramid. Like this is something that for me is, I mean, it's super important. And if I were you, and I want to just tell you something about it, pyramid, the stereo pyramid. Like, for example, let me see if I'm applying this here. I'm not applying this here, but in many of my new mixes, I'm applying this. Like, imagine, I start by saying the guitars are 100% width. And then the bass is 80. And I go from 100%. This is like really, really aggressive, but it creates huge mixes. Do you understand what I mean? Like, usually we do it like mix width, like the width of a plugin, like a relay, it's in 0. And then I'm going to boost it a little bit later. Sometimes I do the opposite. I do like my widest element is not 0, it's 100 width, so it's really stretched out. And then the next element is 80, the next element is 60, and 0 is just like maybe the kick. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
That is really, 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 that's what I call the stereo pyramid. You know, that is really, really, really important.
For me, kick and bass, I usually do even minus 100. I used another plugin, but
correct.
Because it should be straight in the center, and other instruments based on what I wanna do.
So summering up. So you're gonna sit down in the studio next week, and so you're gonna be thinking a lot about layering, about phase. You should be thinking a lot about phase. You should be thinking about layering, I mean, through trigger. That's why I put it here. You should be considering parallel compression, and depending on, and you should have two strategies towards parallel compression: the light duty one and the heavy duty. I think that you should benefit from having two reverbs working at the same time in some elements. You know, I think that you should be able to have two different drum sounds. Remember, many years ago, we saw that video of Steve Albini recording drums, and they had like two rooms, and they're recording like pre-PF in one room and couplet in another. Like, this is one of the most important things in putting together a modern recording. You know, you need to be able to switch from sound A and B so fast. So you're gonna be thinking about that. You're gonna be thinking about it depending on what you're mixing, hi-hats and cymbals. You know, Sooth is a good tip for that. You're gonna be simplistic, you know. And by the way, I said here something like top rules. You know, like the top rules I said was like one session. I mean, these are my goal with this was like, hey guys, we know each other for so many years. Let me tell you my current state of mixing thinking, you know, of today, like how it looks today. Session cleanness, simplicity. If I can get a track to sound great without any plugins, good. I guess that this is the point that I just wrote and the next point are sort of connected. The next point is sort of like believe in your sources. Like, believe in your sources. You don't have to do something all the time. So, and then we have like specific rules, specific recommendations. So we were here, Valhalla 1 and 2. I have a chance to change drum sounds really fast. Hi-hat wars, that's where I had to be a bit heavy-handed because there was something wrong. Simplicity and bus admin. I mean, this is connected also to session cleanness and routing. Routing / visualization and simplicity. These are two things that are important. The panning and imaging as a way to achieve volume. Love that we discussed that. I would say as a way to achieve volume and as a storytelling resource. Stereo pyramid, you got it. Like, I mean, sometimes 100% width is your reference, and then you go from 100 to 0. Massive passive, it's a great. It's really. It's so funny that it's called like that. It's like, it's massive and it's smooth. It's massive and it's smooth, really. Like, it's kind of like that. And the Waves Kramer EQ as a way to achieve some sort of like saturation. Let me put here as a substitute of compression. I have an idea of another kind of like point that I want to put here. Let me put it like down here. Try to achieve compression with saturation sometimes. With analog saturation. Like, I think that you should all be in the mentality. It's a very heatery mentality, which is like, how can I get away? Like, I have to compress. How can I get away to achieve the same effect without using a compressor? Like, I need to turn the volume up. How can I achieve the same process of turning the volume up without turning the volume up? Like, and panning is a good example of how to achieve that. I'm even gonna delete neutron here because it's like kind of like it doesn't make any sense. Post-production arrangements, scenes, slash alt, added beats, etc. Are kind of not optional. They're important. You know what? Maybe harmonization, I guess, will happen rarely at the mixing stage. I mean that you will not add another harmony, or you will not add like a counterpoint. It's more like texture and layer happen at the mixing stage. Tuning the elements is key. So, and actually I guess that this is gonna go more upper in our hierarchy. It's kind of like after parallel compression, you know. Multiple FQs during different scenes in the same channel, I guess is gonna come up as well in our hierarchy here. So we have something more logical. Tuning, yeah. And my current gain goals, current mix boss hotness equals 0 dBFS. That's what I'm looking for. You know, I'm looking for being at 0 dBFS in the end. I mean, so yeah. I mean, again, I really give you the option, guys, because today I came to you without a presentation, and I don't like to do that. This is just connected to my week and to my holiday concert, unfortunately. If you feel that this lecture was bullshit and you don't get anything from it, please really tell me and I add another lecture. Like, no problem.
This one was good.
But
yeah, it was nice.
I think that I just wanted to do something more fresh, that it's kind of like putting your ideas for the next time you sit down to mix. Like, that was my goal. That's why I kind of took it easy on myself and said, I think that you can pull out a good conversation with the guys that is useful. So great. If you say that it was good, that's amazing. I will organize these thoughts. I'm gonna send them to you right now. And then I will be editing them in our, like when I go to the metro or something, I will edit this a bit and make it more clean, you know, and I will clean it. So I gotta run, guys. I gotta go to another lecture in DTH, so I need to get ready. So this is it recorded, so in case somebody fell asleep, I haven't heard Andre for so long.
No, I'm here.
I'm kidding, bro. I'm just trolling you. It's just fun to troll.
Okay.
And yeah, and I hope, by the way, there is a big chance that by next Saturday when you come there, the alternative monitoring in Studio A and B will be installed already, which is great. So you will be able to jump. The Studio A will get the end monitors, and the Studio B already has. Andre was there yesterday when I brought them. The Studio B has the Adam Audios that used to be in 7B. You know, I was like just suffering looking at those speakers in 7B and nobody never using them. And I was just telling to the school, guys, please let me take them to DTH. So I did. So that's all for today. I'm gonna move quickly on to my next deal. So love you all, guys. Take care.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you. See you next week. Karoche, Friday, nothing. Saturday, come to DTH. I know it's early. Let's prepare mentally and do it. Like, you know, let's be there on time and stuff so everything runs well. And if not, the day is gonna get all fucked up. Huh?
What time? 10:30?
Let's do this quickly. Random.org, and let's see who has Studio A and who has Studio B. Okay? If you have any preference, like, do you prefer one of them or? Huh?
No, I don't care.
You don't care. Okay. So this is gonna be for Dima. Okay. If you get number 1, it's Studio A, and if you get number 2, it's Studio B. I'm gonna do it 3 times. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So that was so not random, man. Come on.
I can see kind of images freeze. 1. Yeah, I see.
Like, but I did it 3 times. And okay, let's do it more like this. If you get a, you know, odd number or even numbers, right? You know what?
Yeah, but
let's odd.
Like
Okay.
a casino. Nice.
Like odd being 3. Yeah. So I'm gonna do it 3 times. If it comes out an odd number is gonna be Studio A, like 1, and if it comes out even, like 2 or 4 or whatever, is gonna be Studio B. Okay.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3. So you get Studio B, Dima, and Andrei gets Studio A. Okay. So that's how it works. Are you okay with that, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Dima B, Andrei A. And so that means that Andrei needs to come at 10:30 and Dima needs to come at 11.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I will set up Andrei and then go down, set up Dima. I mean, just open the door, make sure that everything is cool. And then you will be mixing for 3 hours. And this counts like 2 lectures together. And I would be going upstairs to be with Dima for a while Andrei is mixing. Well, Navarro. And then go down, blah, blah, blah. And just be with you guys. Like, okay?
Yeah. What time we're having consultation that day?
The consultation we agreed that we were going to do it that Saturday. That's what we decided.
Yeah, on Saturday. That Saturday.
Yeah, that's what you said. I mean,
yeah, okay, yeah.
If I misunderstood you, we can book it next week, bro. Like Monday.
You know, my point was like to do this offline because we gonna meet each other offline.
Yeah, we can do it that same day. I mean, if you want, when we finish this mixing event, you know.
Yeah, that was my point, like to do this.
It would be like that. So it would be after, I guess, or during, whatever. We will see. Okay.
It will be during because it's really.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking that was gonna happen.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
We square.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, I hope that was useful. Thank you very much. See you next week and see you around, and I'm around. So whatever. And if you are gonna free tomorrow, we're gonna play in Katok. So just let us know if you want.